Hey everyone, it's another Battle for Earth talk. This time it's on Behemoths, which is one of the coolest and possibly one of the most controversial things in the book. So what are Behemoths? First off, they are big units for Drop Zone. By far the biggest models I've ever sculpted, if you don't count the 3 meter long Avenger, which you can't buy. These you will be able to buy. They are regular gameplay units for tournament use. They are obviously pretty powerful, like you're talking a heavy Behemoth is about this kind of size, between 250 and 350 grams of resin goodness for each Behemoth. So these things have been in my head since the very beginning, because I grew up on big walking death machines in other games and everybody loves those. But also 10mm scale and all small scale games in general support big models really nicely. They're not too ungainly. It's a big model, yes, but it's not like you don't need a backpack to carry the thing around. And who doesn't love smashing tower blocks with giant walking robots? So this is something I've always wanted to do, but the sheer resources required to create these things is not to be underestimated. So when I was making the Behemoths, they took me around a month each or more to sculpt. And that's not a month of me doing loads of other things as well. That's just me sat there just doing CAD and nothing else for a month for each one of these. And there are 10 different Behemoth sculpts, completely from scratch, brand new, plus variants. So that is a hell of an investment of time. It's been a big undertaking, and Battle for Earth is obviously the place where these come in because it's the big battle. So this is where the biggest and nastiest toys get unleashed. I've been waiting for an opportunity to do this for a while, and it's been here, so I could finally do it. So rules-wise, how they play in game. So obviously they make an impact because they are huge and they're expensive. Heavy Behemoth, the big ones, they sit around 500 to 600 points-ish. They are powerful, they generally exist on their own, they don't have anything else in the battle group with them. In terms of mobility, so another key thing is Drop Zone is still Drop Zone. We're not turning Drop Zone into kind of Monster Ball or anything. That never was the intention for these things. So they are powerful, they do make an impact, but there are A, ways of dealing with them, and B, you don't have to have a Behemoth to play against an army with one. It helps, of course, but you don't need one. You can avoid them. You can also blow off limbs. So unlike all the other units in Drop Zone, they're not a case of dead or alive. They degrade as you damage them, and you can direct how they degrade. So if your army doesn't have any Behemoths in, for example, you can leave the anti-Behemoth weapons alone because they probably won't hurt you much. You can destroy the cluster weapons and things that are going to destroy your swarms of tanks that are trying to take these things down. In terms of deployment and mobility, because Drop Zone's always been about deployment and mobility, you can just walk on. That's the kind of boring approach. You get some more shooting, so certain Behemoths, the ones with longer range weapons, might want to walk on, but they probably won't do much when it comes to holding focal points and things like that. You can also come down by drop harness. So obviously with models this big, if they were to have a dropship, the dropship would have to be this big, and then you go into the realms of silly then. So they come down by drop harness instead, which is effectively a one-use descent arrestor. So the things are dropped out of a strike carrier, they come down at near terminal velocity, then the drop harness will slow them down, they land, the drop harness is left with just enough fuel to bring itself back up, but not enough fuel to lift up the Behemoth, so it's a one-trip thing. But your infantry cool them down, so you actually need infantry in place to call in a drop. Once they're in, you'll be looking at a Behemoth halfway up the board on turn 2, it will be firing on turn 3, and it will be hurting, and it will be right in the mix. And also they're quite quick because they're so huge. If you think about it, one step is about 6 inches a lot of the time. So they generally have move values of between kind of 8 and 14 inches-ish. So they can get about, they're not super plodding. But yeah, there are ways of dealing with them. They do, of course, shake up the game. And frankly, I haven't spent nearly half a year building a load of giant models for them to not shake up the game a little bit, because that would have been a colossal waste of time. But they are fun and they make a big impact, and I hope you enjoy playing games with them and enjoy seeing them as we roll them out, because each one will be a major announcement and you'll see a lot of lovely imagery for them, and I hope you enjoy them, and yeah. can I have my phone call now?